The Dallas Cowboys welcomed cornerback Trevon Diggs back into the lineup on Sunday after a prolonged and unexpected absence. Diggs had spent the previous 8 games on injured reserve following a concussion and a knee injury. The concussion stemmed from an unusual at-home accident, which Diggs revealed involved a television mount pole falling on him. The combination of injuries kept him sidelined for more than 2 months. His return marked a significant moment for both player and team. It also reopened questions surrounding his role and future in Dallas. The Cowboys' secondary had been under pressure during Diggs' absence. Depth was tested, rotations changed, and consistency became difficult to maintain. Diggs' return immediately addressed a critical need. His presence brought experience and familiarity back to the defense. Even with limited recent reps, he was trusted to step in. That trust reflected his standing within the organization. Returning after such an absence is rarely simple for defensive backs. Timing, conditioning, and confidence must all realign. Diggs entered the game knowing expectations would be high. This was not a symbolic return. It was a functional one, with real responsibility. Dallas needed him immediately. The decision to activate Diggs off injured reserve came on Saturday. That timing suggested confidence in his health and readiness. There was no gradual ramp-up planned. Instead, the Cowboys leaned on him right away. The stakes demanded urgency, and Diggs accepted the challenge. From the opening snap, Diggs was visibly involved. He communicated, competed, and stayed engaged. The long layoff did not keep him on a snap count. Dallas treated him as a full participant. That alone spoke volumes. Availability was no longer the concern. Ultimately, Diggs' return was about more than football. It represented resilience, recovery, and opportunity. But it also carried an undercurrent of uncertainty. This game was not just a comeback. It was an evaluation, and the story was far from finished. A secondary in need of reinforcement. Diggs' return came at a critical moment for the Cowboys' defense. With Darren Bland out for the season due to a foot injury likely requiring surgery, the secondary was depleted. Bland's absence removed one of Dallas' most productive defensive backs. That loss created an immediate void. Experience and reliability were suddenly scarce. Diggs' activation helped stabilize the unit. The Cowboys had been forced to rely on younger players and rotating personnel. While effort remained high, communication suffered. Opposing quarterbacks began to exploit mismatches. Coverage breakdowns became more frequent. The defense needed structure and leadership. Diggs provided both. Playing 52 snaps in his first game back underscored Dallas' urgency. There was no easing him into action. The Cowboys trusted his conditioning. They trusted his instincts. And they trusted his understanding of the system. That trust shaped the game plan. Diggs' presence influenced how opponents approached the passing game. Quarterbacks became more cautious. Routes were adjusted. Spacing changed. Even when targeted, Diggs altered decisions. His impact extended beyond direct coverage. For the coaching staff, Diggs' return allowed more flexibility. Coverage calls expanded. Safety help could be allocated differently. The defense regained balance. That balance had been missing, and it mattered immediately. In that context, Diggs' return was not optional. It was necessary. The Cowboys needed him, not just for depth, but for stability. Sunday marked the beginning of that reintegration, with more still to evaluate. Diggs' emotional response to being back. For Diggs, the moment carried deep emotional weight. After weeks of rehab and uncertainty, returning felt significant. He described it as a blessing. The opportunity to compete again meant everything. His excitement was evident post-game. The joy came from participation, not statistics. Diggs emphasized how much it meant to be back with his teammates. The brotherhood mattered. Practicing alone during recovery had taken a toll. Sunday restored that connection. Being part of the group again felt right. That sentiment framed his comments. The mental challenge of returning can rival the physical one. Diggs acknowledged that adjustment openly. Game speed felt different. Reads came faster. Calls required immediate reaction. Everything had to recalibrate. Rather than focusing on mistakes, Diggs focused on effort. He wanted to compete. He wanted to finish the game. He wanted to feel whole again. That perspective shaped his satisfaction. Health mattered most. Diggs did not present the return as flawless. He recognized the work still ahead, but he valued the opportunity. Simply being out there mattered. That mindset reflected maturity and gratitude. In many ways, the return represented closure to a difficult chapter, but it also opened another. The season continues. Evaluations continue. And Diggs' journey with the Cowboys remains unresolved. Sunday was only one step. Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones offered a cautiously optimistic assessment of Diggs' performance. Jones acknowledged he would need to review the film. However, what he saw live was encouraging. Awareness stood out most to him. That detail mattered. It suggested mental readiness. Jones noted it was difficult to tell when Diggs was in coverage. For a cornerback, that can be a compliment. It often means assignments were handled cleanly. Jones also emphasized the quality of the opposing quarterback. The matchup was not easy. Context mattered. Seeing Diggs back on the field was significant in itself. Availability had been a concern. Jones expressed relief at his return. The defense needed reinforcements. Diggs provided that immediately. The moment carried organizational importance. Jones' comments were measured, not exaggerated. He avoided sweeping conclusions. But the tone was positive. There was no public doubt. No expressed hesitation. That silence spoke volumes. For Diggs, Jones' reaction mattered. Ownership approval often signals broader confidence. It influences internal discussions. It shapes future decisions. This first impression was important, and it leaned favorable. Ultimately, Jones' assessment reinforced that Diggs passed the initial test. The evaluation continues. But the foundation was solid. Dallas saw what it needed to see, at least for now. More remains to be determined. The challenge issued by the coaching staff. Diggs' return was preceded by public comments from head coach Brian Schottenheimer. Weeks earlier, Schottenheimer said the team needed consistency from Diggs in everything. That message was clear. It went beyond coverage skills. Effort, tackling, and discipline were emphasized. Sunday was Diggs' response. Diggs acknowledged the challenge openly. He said the coaching staff pushed him to compete and do everything right. There was no ambiguity. Expectations were communicated clearly. This return was not ceremonial. It was evaluative. The Cowboys wanted to see Diggs' response under real conditions. Practice alone would not answer those questions. Game situations reveal habits. They expose effort and focus. Diggs understood that and embraced the opportunity. Tackling was a particular point of emphasis. Corners are often judged harshly in that area. Diggs did not shy away. He recorded 6 tackles. That involvement mattered. It showed willingness. Schottenheimer's comments framed Sunday's performance. This was not about one play. It was about consistency. Diggs was evaluated snap by snap. The coaching staff watched closely. Accountability defined the moment. This dynamic underscored the seriousness of Diggs' situation. He was not simply returning from injury. He was reestablishing trust. Sunday represented progress, not resolution. The process continues, adjusting to a changed defensive environment. Much had changed since Diggs last took the field. Defensive coordinator Matt Eberfluss was calling plays from the booth. Personnel around Diggs looked different. Communication patterns had shifted. The defense itself had evolved. Diggs had to adjust quickly. Diggs spoke about the challenge of readjustment. Game speed required recalibration. Calls came fast. Situational awareness had to return instantly. There was little margin for hesitation. The adjustment was constant. Returning players often describe this phase as the hardest. Physical readiness does not guarantee rhythm. Diggs experienced that firsthand. Still, repetition helped. Each snap brought comfort. Confidence followed gradually. The Cowboys understood this adjustment phase. They did not expect perfection. They expected engagement and effort. Diggs delivered both. Mistakes were contextualized. Growth was prioritized. Being back on the field allowed Diggs to reconnect with instincts. Coverage reads sharpened. Communication improved. The defense benefited from his presence, even while adjusting. That mattered. Ultimately, this was the first step back. The environment was new. The demands were high. Diggs responded adequately. More time will bring refinement. The process remains ongoing. On the stat sheet, Diggs finished with 6 tackles. That number reflected involvement and effort. For a cornerback returning from injury, it mattered. But Diggs valued something else more. He finished the game healthy. That outcome meant everything. According to Next Gen Stats, Diggs was the closest defender on 5 targets. All 5 were completed for 68 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown came on a 25-yard catch by Ladd McConkey. It occurred in the second quarter. The coverage broke down. The defense paid the price. Diggs addressed the play directly. He emphasized that the coverage was cover 2. That explanation mattered. Cover 2 inherently creates space. Certain throws become available. That risk is understood. Diggs did not deflect responsibility. He explained the scheme's vulnerabilities. Hole shots and flats are part of the challenge. That honesty reflected understanding, not avoidance. Context mattered. Cover 2 requires discipline and communication. When executed imperfectly, mistakes are amplified. Diggs recognized that. He accepted it as part of the scheme. There was no complaint, only acknowledgement. While the numbers may draw criticism, context softens the evaluation. Health was the priority. Availability was the goal. Diggs achieved that. Dallas valued it. And the analysis continues. Scheme adaptation and willingness to adjust. Diggs made it clear he is willing to adapt. If cover 2 remains the future, he said he can adjust. That openness matters. Scheme fit often determines longevity. Diggs understands that. Professionalism guided his response. Dallas' defensive identity remains in flux. Personnel changes force adjustments. Schemes evolve accordingly. Diggs' flexibility provides options. Resistance would complicate matters. Adaptation simplifies them. Diggs acknowledged that cover 2 presents challenges, but he did not view them as obstacles. They are part of the job. Learning curves exist. He accepted that reality. Growth follows acceptance. This willingness to adapt factors into future evaluations. Coaches value flexibility. They value buy-in. Diggs demonstrated both. That matters beyond one game. It influences off-season decisions. Defensive cohesion depends on alignment. Players must trust the system. Diggs appears committed to that process, even amid uncertainty. That speaks to his professionalism and maturity. Ultimately, scheme adaptation will shape Diggs' future, both in Dallas and beyond. Sunday provided evidence of willingness. The rest will unfold with time. Nothing is final yet, but openness helps. An uncertain future in Dallas. Despite the return, uncertainty looms. Diggs admitted the thought of Sunday being his last home game crossed his mind. That realization was difficult. It reflected awareness of his situation. Conversations await this offseason. Outcomes remain unknown. Diggs reiterated his desire to stay in Dallas. He made that clear publicly. At the same time, he acknowledged reality. Discussions with Schottenheimer and Jones are coming. He does not know what they will bring. Uncertainty persists. Contract considerations, health, and scheme fit will all factor in. Dallas must evaluate carefully. Diggs understands that process. He does not control it. He focuses on performance. That is his role. For now, Diggs remains focused on the season. Future conversations can wait. Every snap matters. Every evaluation counts. Sunday was only one data point. More will follow. That uncertainty adds weight to each appearance. Diggs knows it. Dallas knows it. The situation remains fluid. Nothing is guaranteed. The story continues. Trevon Diggs' return was layered with complexity. It was not a simple comeback story. Injury, evaluation, scheme, and future all intersected. Sunday provided answers, but also raised new questions. That tension defined the moment. Diggs returned under scrutiny. He responded with effort and honesty. The performance was not flawless, but it was committed, and it was healthy. That mattered most. The Cowboys gained valuable information. They saw Diggs in live action. They evaluated response and resilience. They assessed scheme fit. Those insights matter. They shape decisions. Jerry Jones was encouraged. The coaching staff issued challenges. Diggs responded. The defense adjusted. Progress was visible, but final judgments remained distant. Questions about Diggs' future remain unanswered. They will be addressed later. For now, the focus stays narrow. Play, compete, stay healthy. In the end, Diggs is back on the field. That alone is meaningful. What comes next remains uncertain, but Sunday re-established his presence and ensured the conversation continues.